Okay, guys, we're going to start with the second part of the reading. When we left off, the old man had just sat up in the bed because he had heard a noise. The narrator had done this for 7 nights in a row, going in and walking in on him and watching him sleep. He never would kill him because the eye was always closed because he was asleep. But tonight, on the eighth night, it's different. The man has been waiting an hour sitting up in his bed. He heard something, he's scared. So let's see what happens.
Presently I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh no, it was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night just at midnight, when all the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise when he turned in the bed. His fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It's nothing but the wind in the chimney. It's only a mouse crossing the floor, or it is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp." Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he had found all in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room.
Okay, so in this paragraph, the narrator is still in the room, the man's still in the room, he's awake. And I don't know if any of you have ever been scared at night when you were younger, but when you can't see anything and something's there, it's really scary. So the man lets out a slight groan, and it's more of like a scream, scared groan, and this makes the narrator chuckle because he likes the fact that he is scaring this man. And he talks about how he's trying to make excuses right here where it says it is nothing but the wind, it's only a mouse, but it's merely a cricket. We all tell ourselves that, like if we hear something, oh, that's not Michael Myers outside, that's just the wind, because it makes us feel better. But, he says it's all in vain, like, which means it's not going to do him any good because death is approaching him and has stalked him. So, he's still thinking he's going to kill this old man because of the eye. And so let's continue. Let me move up to see what happens. And notice I've numbered these for you because you will need that later on. Okay.
When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern, so I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a simple dim ray, like the thread of a spider, shot out from the crevice and fell full upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open. I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow of my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Up until this point, everything has been pitch black. Remember, he has no problem with the old man. It's this filmy eye. It's hideous to him, and it makes him want to kill the old man. And so he opens up the part of the lantern. There's a very little crevice to put some light in there. And out of all the places to fall upon, it fell upon that eye, that vulture eye. And as soon as he saw it, it was open. Fury grew upon him. He saw that dull blue, hideous veil, and it chilled him. It made him want to commit the crime that he has been trying to do for the last week. We're going to continue.
And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over-acuteness of the senses? Now, I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous, so I am. And now, at the dead hour of night, amidst the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet, for some minutes longer, I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there for many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. If you still think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily.
All right, so this is a long paragraph, so I'm going to go back up here. Now, during this part, while he is, waiting in the shadows and he sees this eye, he begins to hear this beating. It was dull and low at first, and then all of a sudden, it kept increasing. And it said that, he knew it was a man's heart. And he actually said right here, it was as if the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier's courage. So, back in the Revolutionary War time, the beating of the drum was a signal of where the soldiers should go, and it kind of gave soldiers courage to go into battle. And he's saying this beating kind of stimulated that, like gave him the courage. We go down. So he kept that eye, the ray upon the eye, so he could still see it. It's growing louder and louder, and finally it just took over to the point where he thought the man's heart was going to burst, and with the new anxiety, it's seized him. He attacked, and he killed the old man. And then, as he bent over him, he knew he was dead. He said he smiled gaily, which means he was happy to see that the deed was done. And for many minutes, though, the heart kept beating, and he kept, it's kind of freaking him out because he's like, wait a second, I killed this man. Why am I still hearing the heart? He even removes the bed and examines the corpse. He says it's stone dead. He placed his hand upon the part. There was no pulsation. His eye wouldn't trouble me no more. And then he worked hastily because he had to conceal. And if your vocabulary words was concealment, which means to hide the body. So now he's done the deed. And so now he's got to hide the body. So we're going to finish up. Hold on.
but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms and the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out. No stain of any kind, no blood spot whatsoever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught it all. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what did I now to fear? There entered 3 men, who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled. For what had I...
Okay, so let's go back to this. So, no, it's not here. It says I dismembered the body. So he takes apart the body, and he takes up 3 planks of the flooring, and he deposited them all between those little plank scantlings, which are the planks of wood. He replaced the board so cleverly you would never saw it. There was no blood. The tub had taken away from that. So I'm assuming he dismembered the body in the tub. When he was done with this, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark. And then all of a sudden there comes a knocking, and it's the police. They heard a shriek, and, he lets them in. And then tomorrow we will finish this up.